At an extraordinary session of the Muskogee Creek Nation National Council on February 5, 2021, NCA 21-010 was proposed and failed to be passed. The bill itself had stated that a recipient of HUD funds had been determined to be ineligible, and as a result, the MCN would have to repay $25,000 back to the federal program. Muskogee Media requested, under the MCN Freedom of Information Act, any documents related to this legislation with the MCN National Council, Housing Department, and Executive Branch. On February 23rd, the National Council responded to our request with a letter denying access to any ancillary documents in relation to the bill. Muskogee Media also contacted the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to confirm that there had been regulation violation. HUD Public Affairs confirmed that the department had determined there had been a regulation violation based on HUD's review of information and documentation provided by the Muskogee Creek Nation, and that the funds in question had been subsequently paid to HUD on March 16, 2021. Muskogee Media then filed the Freedom of Information request with HUD for all documents provided to them by the nation. On March 23, 2021, Muskogee Media received a series of PDF documents from HUD, which contain copies of MCN housing application documents, as well as a letter from the MCN Secretary of Housing to HUD detailing the violation. According to the letter, the violation was in the Mortgage Assistance Program and, quote, the buyer and the seller did not disclose their relationship during the application process, end quote. While the documents redacted all names and addresses, there were included in the description of the property a map and several photos of the house in question, as well as a redacted warranty deed for the property. Utilizing the map, Muskogee Media was able to narrow the search for the property to a specific area, and due to the distinctive architecture of the house, the images narrowed the possible residences to one. After obtaining the address for this property from Google Maps, Muskogee Media was able to obtain the warranty deed for this specific residence from the Tulsa County Clerk in order to compare it to the redacted deed. While the redacted deed removed the names and addresses, it retained two distinctive handwritten numbers, a notation for $242.25 at the top of the deed, and the handwritten number 28 in the body. Comparison of these two handwritten items with the deed for the house obtained through Tulsa County show that they are identical. This deed identifies MCN National Council Representative Lucian Tiger as the grantor and Elizabeth Ann Cole, Representative Tiger's present wife, as the grantee. Furthermore, on loan application documents provided by HUD, the applicant lists their present address as the same as the house in question. A search of voter records for Representative Tiger shows that he has listed the address for this property as his residence from 2009 to the present, and had also listed the same address in his MCN voter registration for 2017. These documents indicate that Cole, while living in the property owned by Tiger, obtained mortgage assistance in the amount of $25,000 to purchase the home from her now husband, Lucian Tiger. Muskogee Media contacted each National Council member in order to find out what information was presented to them about the violation before the vote on NCA 21-010. Several council members who voted no on the legislation stated that the council's internal fact-finding committee found no findings of wrongdoing, and that the MCN Attorney General had advised them that there was no evidence of a violation. Council reps that voted yes all did so on the basis of HUD's letter and their desire not to jeopardize future HUD funding. Muskogee Media then contacted the MCN AG's office to clarify what his legal opinion on the matter was, and he stated, quote, HUD determined that an infraction was committed by the MCN Housing Department, not the mortgage assistant recipient. No violations of Muskogee Creek Nation law have been identified, and I do not anticipate further legal action, end quote. Muskogee Media also contacted the executive branch to find out what funds were used to pay the violation and what information was presented to the National Council before their vote. In a statement from the Principal Chief's office, he explains how the violation was paid. Quote, since the proposed bills NCA 21-010, NCA 21-013, and NCA 21-019 were not approved by the National Council, and due to the deadline in this matter, I felt that this rose to the level of an emergency. I knew that if we didn't repay the funds, that the nation's future funding could be jeopardized, so I approached the Attorney General's office to determine whether this would qualify under the Controller's Act. Upon his recommendation, I authorized the Controller to repay the MCN IHBG LOCCS using tribal funds, end quote. Chief Hill's statement also describes how the investigation was conducted. Quote, I received a concern correspondence from a citizen with supporting documentation. I immediately contacted the Attorney General's office, the Department of Housing and Light Horse. The AG's office determined that the allegation warranted an investigation. At that point, it was turned over to Light Horse to proceed with their investigation to decide whether there was a sufficiency to the initial allegation. At the conclusion of the Light Horse investigation, they determined that the claim was credible and therefore it was up to HUD to investigate further, end quote. Also in the statement, Chief Hill clarifies that only a copy of the HUD ineligibility findings letter was provided to the National Council. According to both the National Council and the Executive Branch, when the Council voted on this legislation, they would have had no idea that a seated council member was involved or any of the detail presented in this story. Muskogee Media also asked the Principal Chief what could be done to prevent violations such as this one in the future, and received this response, quote, for all our programs, we hope that our policies and procedures are strong enough to catch and identify any irregular activity. Unfortunately, sometimes we make mistakes and we miss something. In this situation, our policies were deficient, and now we have to use our mistakes as a way to get better. I have said many times, if I don't know what is wrong, I can't fix it. We learned that we need to change and strengthen our policies for this specific program. One example is that now there is an independent review for the beginning and the end of this application process. This secondary review will allow fresh eyes to look at every application. These types of steps should deter any bad actors from attempting to influence our outcomes. Muskogee Media also contacted Representative Tiger for his statement on the matter, and in his response, he denied living at the residence until December of 2017, even though MCN voter registration records for the same year list the address as his in October. He does not deny he sold the house to Miss Cole or that she is now his wife, stating that they married in September of 2018. He confirmed that he is now a resident of the address, but denies that he received any of the $25,000. Representative Tiger reiterates statements of other council members that the Fact-Finding and Investigation Committee, along with the MCN Attorney General, found no evidence of violations. Representative Tiger also states, quote, I feel that this investigation was politically motivated because since the inception of the MAP housing has only audited one file, Miss Cole, end quote. Muskogee Media asked for clarification about some of Representative Tiger's statements, but has not received a response as of press time. Muskogee Media contacted HUD again for clarification on what regulations had been violated in this instance, and were these violations a result of an undisclosed relationship between the buyer and seller. Quote, based on the information provided to our office, it was unclear if the application included everyone living in the house. Because of this, total household income could not be determined. Because the total household income was questionable, the family could not be found to be eligible for the program.